video. On the previous video, we dealt with unauthorized authorization behaviors. Well, we were speaking about allowing unauthorized requests and requests that require authentication and their effect on SPA applications and applications that have home pages, right? So now what we are going to do is get into the networking of application services. Under that, we say by default, app services are accessible through the public internet, meaning I can put a URL in the browser, then I should be able to access app services. So they are not protected by any particular firewall of some sort or anything like that by default. Then there are two main app service deployment types, which is multi-tenant and single-tenant. So with multi-tenant, the public service hosts app service plan in the pricing tiers: free, shared, standard, and premium SKUs. And in single tenant, the app service environment hosts isolated SKU app service plans directly in your Azure network, virtual network. So that's the Azure VNet. So it means in single tenant, we host applications in the VNet using app service environment, ASE in short. So for multi-tenant app service networking features that we have is that we have a concept of, well, Azure. This is not more of a feature actually. Azure is app service is distributed service, meaning it can be used throughout and all of that. I'm not gonna go into that. But then we have internally to multi-tenant app services, we have front ends and workers. So if you look at that, front ends are rows that handle incoming HTTP requests. So this will typically handle all the requests that are coming in, do the filtering, do whatever that is required. Then we have workers. Workers are those that are rows that host customer workloads. So this is typically where your code would be sitting and all of that. Then here we say all rows in app service deployment exist in the multi-tenant network. So all rows, meaning front ends and workers, exist in the in the multi-tenant network. And here we say you cannot connect the app service network to your network directly because app service scale unit is being used by multiple customers, right? So that means that we can't do network configurations directly on our app service network because it is shared by multiple customers. So network features that we have now to control traffic and all of that include but are not limited to inbound features and outbound features, or grouped between inbound and outbound features. So I'll start with the outbound features. This is the features that enables or controls how we communicate outwards with our system. So we have hybrid connections, we have gateway required VNet integrations, we have VNet integrations. Then we have app assigned addresses. We have access restrictions. We have service endpoints and private endpoints in the inbound, right? Then here is an example from the documents that actually specifies these things for us and explains exactly when and how we could use a feature to control and mix and match our network configuration to our customer requirements. So say for example here we need an inbound use case where you want to support IP-based SSL needs for your application. So you need SSL connections for your application. You'd have app assigned addresses to support and share dedicated inbound addresses for your app. You'd have app assigned addresses to restrict access to your app from a set of well-defined addresses. So you want to block, addresses that are doing a DDoS attack or something. You can have use the access restriction feature in the inbound features. Cool. Then default networking behavior. Free and shared SKUs. So free and shared service plans essentially host customer workloads on multi-tenant workers, as we mentioned previously. The basic or higher plans, SKU plans, host customer workloads that are dedicated to only one app service plan, right? So that means that the app service plan, because it defines resources and all of that that we need to use, essentially what that allows us is to host what do you call our workloads, our code bases on dedicated resources, essentially dedicated VMs, so to say, which are not shared completely by multiple users. So scaling app service plan will run app service in the app service plan in multiple worker for each instance of the plan. So remember what we discussed, we said app service plan are the scaling units. So you could scale up an app service plan, and when you scale up an app service plan, all the app services and functions that are inside that app service plan will be replicated in a new instance essentially. So that's where the part that says multiple worker for each instance comes into play. So for outbound addresses, we said app service plans break down the worker uh, worker VMs. So app service plans, they actually partition the worker VMs. That's what that thing means. And we say for free, shared, and basic, standard, and premium, we use the same VM type, worker VM type essentially. Then for premium V2 plans, we use another set of or another type of VM type. And for premium V3, we use another uh, separate type for VM type. So when you are using a basic or shared, your VM type will be the same. But if you are using a standard versus someone who's using a premium V2, you'll have a different VM type. For someone using premium V2 versus someone using premium V3, their VM types will be different. Then we say when changing VM family, outbound addresses change. For example, if you scale from a standard plan to a V2, because they are using different VM types, your outbound addresses will change. This can affect a bunch of things that rely on those outbound addresses. So you need to be able to manage those type of shortfalls if you are looking to do that type of what do you call scaling essentially. We say all the scale units change both inbound and outbound addresses. So previously you change both of those, but now the change that happens is just affects just the outbound addresses. Say we can find all outbound addresses listed on the properties of your app service of your app that can be used by your app. All app services running on the same VM family VM family in app service deployment share the addresses, right? What does that mean? So if we have app services that are running on the same VM type, technically speaking, they are sharing the address spaces, both the inbound and outbound. Then for you to see all the possible or the outbound addresses that you could use for application, we have a property here called possible outbound addresses that lists out basically for that particular scale unit that you use, lists out all the outbound addresses that you could use. So there, here I have an example that shows how we could use what do you call how we could use how we could see the outbound addresses that we have in our application. So here I went to an app service. On that app service, I clicked on properties. On properties, I then listed out all the outbound IP addresses that we could use. Cool. Here I have a Cloud Shell example that basically shows you all the outbound addresses that you could have in here. I'm not sure if I'm ready to demo this, but let's try. Uh, okay, let's try this. So like there I have resource group that I created demo one in there. What I'm going to do is just create a web app. Hopefully this will be deleted by the time I do the demo. I say test something declarable. Cool. That's that. I'm just gonna set up the runtime to basically anything that I want. Let me say .NET 5. Then that gives me the region. I'm gonna run it on Windows. SKU there. It says free shared. Okay. Okay, that's this is the configuration to the app service plan. Then why doesn't it allow me to do that? Choose another region for argument's sake. Not Europe. So doing that doesn't allow me to change SKU size and all of that. Okay, click on create new. Cool. We're just gonna click on create review. See, and it's probably what I selected there that is giving me those type of nuances. And I'm gonna create that. This is gonna deploy an ARM and all those in the background. Still validating. Come on. So you could download whatever that you configured there. You could download it here if you wanted to do that. This is taking forever. So let's download. That is doing that correlation ID. So this is now doing the deployment to Azure to actually provision that app service plan and the app service itself. So it looks like that was created. Okay. Come on. Okay, cool. I'm just gonna go into my subscription and see resources. So there's my app service plan. Cool, that's my app service plan created there. Okay, can go in the app service plan itself actually and click on apps. There's my app and it's running. So if I click on the app itself, it'll open my web app. Then if I go to properties, I click on properties, and you'll then see there is the URL. So publicly accessible by default, that's that. Meaning if I come here and do that, it'll basically have some response. Let's say HTTPS. There is my app service running. So this is the default page. Then what we were talking about was this outbound IP addresses and all of that we have. Cool. I'm just gonna delete this after the presentation, but basically that's what I was demoing there. So now what I wanted to do was get into this particular point where I need to type out this command, and for that I need to open my CMD. Okay, this is more or less the same. Cool. So here I'm just gonna type out the command that we have on the documentation. Just take this down a bit so that we could see. Okay, that's that. So that's that. Based on that, what I can do is AZ web app show dash RG. I think our RG is demo one. Might make a mistake there. The name of the app service. Then if I want the name of the app service, I need to go to my browser and copy that. Okay, can get here. This is effectively the name of our web app. Name that, and I need to specify my query going forward. That's that. I need to say query. Then what do I want in that? Outbound IP address. I didn't specify the output. Let's see what will happen. Recognized argument. So it doesn't recognize is web app show. Why does it not show that dash? Okay, let me just really type it. Source group. So that's the command there. I'm just running it there. Let's see. Oh, cool. Those are the list of my IP addresses, similar to what you saw on the browser. Coolio. And what was that? Okay. And that's that. Then also we have to find all possible outbound IP addresses for your app, regardless of pricing tier. Run the following. So these ones are pricing tier dependent, I'm assuming, so that if we want all of them, we would type out, okay, let me just put in that would be possible, and change that to capital. Oh, I'm not sure if it's case sensitive or not. Azure is doing magic in the background to give us results. It's taking forever. It's expecting it. Okay, cool. Then it gives me the address list that are possible regardless of the pricing tier that I have. That is based on my VM type essentially. So then here we have an what do you call, on the next video I'll just record a video where I do the example where we talk about what do you call when we upload this thing into our create our first app service essentially using the command line. Cool.